In this video, we're going to talk about why people believe in God. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get into it. What's up, everybody? This is Josh from Practical Theism. As I started posting videos directed, I guess, more towards atheists, the conversations start to get really interesting. Atheists are much more outspoken than believers. It's pretty fascinating. And I always find it fascinating to understand how someone objects to the arguments that have made the most sense to me personally in my journey. For example, I was dialoguing with a gentleman on YouTube about arguments for God's existence. I prompted this person a couple of times to give me the best argument for God's existence, in his opinion, because this person claimed to have heard them all. You know, he's been an atheist for all of his life, and he found none of them good, but they wouldn't engage my question. So I gave him one. I just threw it out there. I was then accused of two fallacies, one of which was a special pleading fallacy, which is when a person is applying rules and standards to others while exempting him or herself, which stemmed from their assumption that I was drawing a conclusion that I wasn't really drawing. Anyways, it was interesting, and one of the statements that one of my interlocutors made was that people just believe in God out of convenience, or that was just somehow they were brought up that way, so they believe it. And also that people stop believing in God almost always because they found out the truth, and that truth was that their upbringing and belief in God was false. And why would they go back to something that's false? I thought this was an interesting thought. And I thought to myself, that simply isn't true. I mean, interestingly enough, Pew Research studies have found that nearly half of people that leave religion do so because of lack of belief. Some examples of reasons why these people said they don't believe, though, is because, quote, too many Christians are doing unchristian things, or, quote, religion is the opiate of the people, or, quote, rational thought makes religion just go out the window, or, quote, I just realized somewhere along the line that I didn't really believe it. There are definitely a share of people that claim science as the reason for their disbelief. Definitely, there's no question. And there certainly were a few that claimed that in my discussions. And I would venture to guess, though, that when you ask these people who stopped believing what it is they stopped believing in, you might be hard-pressed to find people that can articulate the God that they stopped believing in, or even find that you probably could affirm what they don't believe in too. I mean, what is fascinating to me with those arguments is that they are grounded in some very fundamental principles of truth that they themselves cannot be proven empirically. Science, for example, it assumes that everything in this universe can be measured and tested. It grounds itself in the philosophical truth that the world is intelligible or has the ability to be known. But why do people believe in God? I think that different people will absolutely have different answers to this question. But I do think that it stems far beyond something that people just believe because they were told to. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certainly people that do that, people that would claim that they believe because they were told to believe. And I would suggest to you that a lot of people believe in God because it is cultural for them to do so. But belief, for a lot of people, goes far beyond that. I mean, I've heard Christians who, when I ask why they believe in the whole God thing or believe in that, they say the whole love thing just makes sense. Or the generosity of Christians points them to a higher power. But why else? In my study and reversion to my faith, I would listen to conversion stories to the faith. From other faiths, from non-faiths, you name it. And they are so powerful and super interesting. I I've heard people believe in God for reasons stemming from everything from the beauty of art in the Sistine Chapel, to the symphonies of Mozart, to the intellectual arguments of theism, all the way to the generosity of believers, to the consistent stance on moral issues, to the morality of the faith, to a tragic event that awakens a belief in God in them, all the way down to they just believe because at the end of the day, something makes sense to them about it. So I don't think that we can just broadly say that there is one specific reason that brings people to belief in God. But ultimately, I think it boils down to one common factor. It's true. But to arrive there, we have to evaluate the arguments for God's existence on the argument's own terms, and ultimately realize that there is no one argument that is wholly sufficient. There just isn't. We can't act like there is. More on that in future videos. If you haven't already, as I prompted you in the beginning, punch that like button, hit the subscribe button, share this around, and start some really interesting dialogue, because I guarantee you're going to get some interesting dialogue if you share this video. And we'll catch you next time.